At 1:47 a.m. on a Tuesday in late September, the lights at Shelter 11 in a quiet Midwestern county park turned on by themselves. The motion sensor feed recorded empty picnic tables, swaying chains on the kids' swings outside, and fog creeping in off the lake. What it shouldn't have recorded, what the county IT guy swears isn't even wired into the system, was the other shelter in the frame, the one in the background, the one with the wrong number on the sign, a metal placard hanging crookedly, barely legible through the white haze. 12. You're listening to Midwest Mysteries. My name is Daniel, and on this channel we explore true, disturbing stories from the heartland, state parks, quiet lakes, empty highways, and the things that come out when the gates are locked and the last camper goes home. Tonight's story was sent in by a man I'll call Mark, a former park worker from somewhere in the Midwest. He asked me not to use his real name or the real name of the park, and I'm going to respect that. A few small details have been changed, but what you're about to hear is, in his words, exactly what happened to him over one long, bad season. He called it the 12th shelter. His email started like this: "My therapist says I should talk about it. My boss says if I talk about it, I'll never work for the county again. So I'm telling you instead. If you ever packed your kids into a minivan and took them to a lakeside park for the weekend, there's a chance you were walking around on top of what I saw. And if you ever find yourself at a picnic shelter with the wrong number on it, I need you to know something. Do not sit down." Here is Mark's story in his own words. "I'm 34 now, married, 2 kids. For the last decade, I've worked maintenance and security at different parks, city parks, fairgrounds, a couple of small state recreation areas. I'm not easily spooked. What I'm going to tell you didn't happen on some massive national park out west. It wasn't Yellowstone or the Boundary Waters or anything you'd recognize from a postcard. It was a county park, a regular one. Playground, boat ramps, campsites with electrical hookups, a little bait shop at the entrance, families on weekends, retired guys fishing on Tuesday mornings, that kind of place. If you grew up in the Midwest, you've been to a park like this. Hell, for all I know, you've been to this exact one. I started there in April 2017, hired on as seasonal help. My title was park attendant, but what that really meant was I emptied trash cans, cleaned bathrooms, mowed a lot of grass, and drove loops at night telling people the park was closed. It sat around a man-made lake, about 4 miles long and half a mile across in the middle. They'd flooded an old valley back in the 70s, dammed up a shallow river to make a reservoir for the nearby city. Somewhere under that brown water, there's a ghost town. At least half a dozen people told me that. Like it was a fun bit of trivia. Old roads, old foundations, a little main street, all of it down there in the dark, silt slowly erasing it. When the lake went in, they built the park around it. 11 picnic shelters numbered in a counterclockwise ring. Boat ramps on the south side, 2 campground loops on the north shore, a nature trail cut through the woods on the east, and a maintenance yard tucked away on a gravel road the public wasn't supposed to use. If you look up the brochure, that's what you'll see. Neat little map, 11 blue squares for shelters, a happy family cartoon grill. But that map is incomplete. There are things in that park that were never printed for the public. Places they stopped putting on the signs after enough bad things happened there. Things like the 12th shelter. I didn't know any of that when I started. To me, it was an easy job that paid better than the hardware store and kept me outside. My first few months were uneventful. Spring in the Midwest is unpredictable, and we had a long wet one that year. The park had its usual share of problems. Flooded paths, muddy sites, a pair of teenagers who decided to carve their initials into a bathroom door and got more splinters than letters. By July, I'd learned the rhythms. Weekdays, it was quiet except for fishermen and the occasional mom group at playgrounds. Friday and Saturday nights, every site was full, and my job was driving slow loops in the county truck, telling drunk guys they couldn't have glass bottles on the beach, and reminding everyone that the park closed at sunset for day use areas. Officially, we closed the gates at 10 p.m. Unofficially, it was closer to whenever the last car left. There was a system. One of us on days, one of us, usually me, on swing shift, staying until around midnight. There was one guy on actual overnight duty a few nights a week. His name was Greg. He'd been there almost 20 years. did mostly custodial work, and slept in a converted office in the maintenance building between rounds. The park didn't have rangers exactly, just us and a supervisor who lived off-site. The first weird thing I noticed was how everyone talked about the shelters. At orientation, my supervisor, a guy named Ron, handed me a dog-eared laminated map. "Learn this," he said. "You'll be getting calls from dispatch and from the gate. People never know where they actually are, so you have to know it better than they do." The map had 11 blue squares around the lake. Shelter 1 by the dam, 2 and 3 by the big playground, and so on, all the way around to 11 at the far end of the North Shore. "We rent these out for parties," Ron said. "You'll be helping set up sometimes. Trash bags, charcoal, that kind of thing. And after dark, if you see people hanging around shelters without a reservation, you move them on, clear the park. Simple." 11 shelters, I said, memorizing the layout. "Got it." Greg, who was leaning in the doorway with a styrofoam cup of coffee, snorted softly. "Used to be 12, he said. Ron shot him a look that shut him up. "Not anymore," Ron said. "County pulled one down in the 80s. Erosion issues." He said it flat, like he'd recited the same line 100 times. I didn't think much of it then. Parks change, trails get rerouted, buildings rot. I stuck the map in my glove box and moved on. The second weird thing I noticed was the booking sheet. Shelters had to be reserved during peak season. Inside the main office, there was a big whiteboard that listed each day of the month in rows, and across the top, the numbers 1 through 11. At the beginning of each week, the clerk would write in last names under the numbers. Lopez 3, Smith 7, that sort of thing. One night in mid-August, I was clocking out when I noticed something. For Saturday the 19th, under Shelter 11, there was a name. Under Shelter 10, there was a name. And between them, squeezed into a blank bit of white space with no column above it, in smaller, cramped handwriting, was another name. S12, Walton, 2 p.m. I frowned. "Hey, Nancy," I said to the clerk. "Since when do we have a Shelter 12? She followed my gaze, expression flattening a little when she saw what I meant. "Oh," she said, "that's just a note. Internal code. Don't worry about it." "It says Shelter, though." She uncapped the dry erase marker and, without looking at me, scribbled over the S12 until it was a dark blue block. "Don't worry about it," she repeated. "Ron handles that one." "You mean it exists?" Her eyes flicked to mine, and for a second I saw something there I didn't expect. A kind of calculation, like she was deciding how much trouble it would be to tell me the truth. Then she pasted on a tight smile. "It's above your pay grade," she said. "Go home, Mark. You're on swing shift tomorrow too, right? You'll be here plenty." I went home, but I didn't stop thinking about it. By then I'd driven every public road in that park at least 50 times. I'd mowed along every shelter. I could have drawn you the map from memory. 11 shelters, no more, unless one of them only showed up when they needed it, or when it wanted to. The night everything came together was the last Saturday in September. If you live in the Midwest, you know that's the strange in-between time at parks. Technically, the season hasn't fully ended. There are still open sites, the leaves are just starting to turn, and if you're willing to be cold in the morning, it's beautiful. But the crowds thin out. The nights feel bigger. That day we had exactly 3 shelters rented, 2, 5, and 9, a baby shower, a church group, and a big family reunion. At 6 p.m., Ron called a quick meeting before heading out. "I'm off at 8, he said. "County's been on my ass about overtime. Greg's here overnight, but he has to hit the bathrooms on the south side in the campground loops. Mark, you're on lockup. Make sure everyone's out of the day-use areas by 10. Lock the main gate at 10:30. Radio if you need anything, but try not to need anything." Then, almost as an afterthought, he added, "And if dispatch calls about any complaints at Shelter 12, you tell them it's a false alarm and call me. Do not respond alone. Got it?" He said it fast, like ripping off a Band-Aid. I stared at him. "I thought you said they pulled that one down," I said. He didn't blink. "They did," he said. "And if anyone tells you different, they're messing with you. It's right there in the county records. Structurally unsound, removed in 1987. That's the line you repeat if somebody asks. Structurally unsound, removed in 1987. He met my eyes a second longer than necessary. Got it, Mark? Yeah, I said slowly. Got it. He left in his personal truck at 8:05. The rest of the evening was normal. I did a round at sunset, asked the church group at Shelter 5 if they needed anything, helped a guy jump his dead battery at Boat Ramp 3. I saw families loading kids into SUVs, coolers into trunks, that slightly frantic end-of-day energy where everyone's tired and sunburned. By 9:30, the playgrounds were empty. Lights along the main road clicked on in automatic rows. The world shrank to halos of yellow and gray mist. I started my final sweep. The system was simple. North Shore first, then East Side, then the South and the Dam, ending back at the main gate. I carried a handheld radio and a key ring big enough to knock someone out. Shelters 7, 8, and 9 were locked in dark. The smell of charcoal still hung in the air. I shined my spotlight across the gravel lots. Saw nothing but wrappers and a stray balloon bouncing against a fence. At Shelter 11, I slowed for a second. It sits at the very end of the paved road on the North Shore. Past it, the road becomes a gravel access path with a sign that says, "Maintenance vehicles only." Beyond that is just trees, a strip of shoreline, and then the black, still lake. Shelter 11 is a simple 4-post, tin-roof structure with 6 picnic tables and a big brick grill. That night, 2 fluorescent tubes above the center table were on. They buzzed weakly, casting everything in washed-out light. The rental sheet had it empty. No one had reserved it all week. But there were plastic cups on the tables, a bag of charcoal half open, lighter fluid standing next to it, a jacket thrown over a bench, no people. I checked my watch, 9:44 p.m. "County truck 2 to base," I said into the radio. "Greg, you copy?" Silence. Then Greg's voice came back, rough with too much bad coffee. "Go ahead, 2. "Did we have anyone at 11 today?" "Not on the books," he said. "Why?" "There's stuff out here," I said. "Looks like somebody left in a hurry. Coals are cold, but it hasn't rained. Maybe they forgot and walked the trail back instead of driving?" The trailhead started near Shelter 10, about a quarter-mile back down the road. Some people parked at one shelter and looped around. It wasn't crazy. "Could be," Greg said. "Either way, grab the jacket and stick it in Lost and Found. Make a note about the gear. If nobody calls in a week, we trash it." "Copy." I put the radio down, killed the truck's engine, and stepped out. Even in late September, the lake throws off a chill at night. Mist was pooling along the low spots, drifting between the tables and thin fingers. The fluorescent lights flickered as I walked under them. "Hello?" I called out, more out of habit than anything. "Park's closing. Anyone still out here?" Nothing answered but the soft slosh of water on rocks and, somewhere out on the lake, the low cough of a boat motor. I picked up the jacket, a man's denim, heavy, still faintly warm from whoever had been wearing it that day. The pockets were empty, no wallet, no keys. I grabbed the half-used charcoal bag and set it aside, collected cups and paper plates in a black trash bag, moving quickly in the cold. Then, as I stepped out from under Shelter 11 to toss the bag into the dumpster, I saw it. Down the slope, maybe 50 yards away, another shape in the fog, another roofline, another shelter. I stopped dead. There shouldn't have been anything there. I knew that area. I'd walked it a dozen times on break, looking for lost fishing lures and weird driftwood. It was just shoreline and some old cottonwoods. But there it was. 4 posts, tin roof, a dim light glowing from underneath, soft and yellow. The fog was thicker around it, making the air seem syrupy. There was a sign on the nearest post, a white rectangle on a metal stake. I couldn't read the number from where I stood, but it was there. I blinked hard. The second shelter didn't go away. I felt something in my chest, a little shift from "this is weird" to "this is wrong." Like when you step onto a staircase you think has one more step than it does, and your whole body jolts. I thought about Ron. Structurally unsound, removed in 1980. Moti de job. And I thought about the whiteboard. S12 Walton. My fingers tightened around the trash bag until it crinkled. "Greg," I said, trying to keep my voice casual as I raised the radio. "You sure there's nothing scheduled out past 11? Static, then, what do you mean out past 11? My eyes stayed on the shape through the fog. "I mean," I said, "I'm looking at another shelter. Lights on. Looks newer, actually. Past the end of the pavement. Greg exhaled, quiet but audible. "Mark," he said, "get back in the truck. Close the gate. Come home." That's not really an answer. You want an answer? His voice had an edge now, something like fear and anger fighting in his throat. "County says there's 11 shelters. Ron says there's 11. That's what we put in the brochure. That's what you tell people." I swallowed the air, feeling thick in my lungs. "I'm not asking what the county says," I said. "I'm telling you I see a building that's not on my map." "Then ignore it," he snapped. "You're not paid enough to walk down there." As if on cue, the light under the distant shelter flickered, then grew a shade brighter. A curly line of what might have been smoke or breath twisted up into the fog above it. I realized distantly that I could hear something faint from that direction. Not voices exactly, the scrape of a chair, the soft clink of a glass, like there was a party going on in a room you were standing outside of. "Greg," I said, "is this some kind of hazing thing? Because if you guys built a prop out here to mess with the new guy, His reply hit like a slap. "Do I sound like I'm joking?" I shut up. Somewhere along the east shore, a loon called. That eerie, laughing sound they make that already seems halfway to a horror movie. It made the hairs on my arms stand up. "Listen," Greg said, his voice lower. "You can't help anyone who's sitting in that shelter, Mark. They're already gone. You get in your truck, you lock the gate, and you go home. If dispatch calls about any noise complaint out there, I'll take it. You're done for the night." The phrase noise complaint lodged in my brain like a splinter. "Has dispatch called about it before?" I asked. Silence. Then the radio clicked off. I stood between the official shelter and the unofficial one for a long, cold minute, breathing in lake mist and old charcoal. I like to think of myself as a decent guy. If I see someone on the side of the road with a flat tire, I stop. If a kid is crying in the grocery store aisle, I at least look around to see if there are parents nearby. So standing there, hearing the faint sounds of what my brain insisted was a family down there in the fog, I felt wrong turning away. I also like to think I'm not an idiot. County says there are 11 shelters. Do not respond alone. I compromised. "I'm going to drive the main road," I said into the radio finally. "If there's a car in the lot that shouldn't be, I'll call it in. If there's nothing, I'm going to do what you said and go home. Copy?" A long pause. "Finally, copy," Greg said. "Just stick to the pavement." I backed away from the edge of the slope, keeping my eyes on that second shelter until the angle of the hill cut it off from view. In the truck, with the door shut and the heater blasting lukewarm air, the world felt normal again. The fog was just fog. The lake was just water. I swung the truck around and pointed it back down the North Shore Road, deciding to trust the old guy who'd been doing this longer than I'd been out of high school. Sometimes that's the smartest thing you can do. Sometimes it's not enough. On the way back past Shelter 10, my radio crackled. "County Control to Park 2, you copy?" It was a woman's voice, one of the dispatchers downtown. "Park 2, I said. "Go ahead." "Yeah, we just got a call from some folks at Shelter 12. Repeating, Shelter 1-2. They're saying there's a man in a county truck driving around shining lights in their faces and not identifying himself." "You out there, Mark?" My mouth went dry. "This is Park 2, I said slowly. "I'm the only county truck in the north section. I'm on the main road, and we don't have a Shelter 12. A beat of silence. "You don't," she said. "That's what the map says here. Yeah, but they're insisting." Said that's what's on the sign. They sound upset. "How many people?" I asked. Hang on, transferring." There was a shuffle, a click, and then the line changed quality, picking up wind and chatter, and under it, a man's voice, tinny, phasing in and out. "Told you it says 12, Mitu was saying. "Look, the guy just drove by again. Hey, can you stop for a second?" I swallowed. The dispatcher came back on. "You still there, Park 2? "Yeah," I said. "Patch him through." "Sir, this is County Parks," she said. "You're speaking with Mark, the attendant on duty." "Sir, you're on with him now." There was a soft feedback howl, like two radios too close together, and then, "Are you kidding me with this?" the man on the shelter line demanded. We paid good money for this shelter, and your guy has been driving in circles for the last hour, shining his brights in here and not saying a word. My wife is freaking out, and my kids are trying to sleep. I forced my voice to stay even. Sir, this is Mark with the county, I said. I'm in a white F-250 on the paved loop road. What does your truck look like? A sharp laugh. Your truck looks like your truck, he snapped. County logo, yellow light bar, the whole 9 yards. I watched you go by 3 times now. Don't play dumb. I gripped the steering wheel tighter. Okay, I said slowly. What do you see around you right now besides my supposed truck? The line rustled. I could hear what sounded like a breeze, and in the background, the faint, high voice of a child saying, Daddy, he's back. Trees, the man said. The lake, the playground, other shelters. What kind of... Oh, now the lights are going off. Great, just great. Behind my own windshield, the road ahead was empty, except for the halo of my headlights and the fog. There are 11 shelters listed for this park, I said carefully. Can you read me the number on your sign, letter by letter? Maybe you're at another park or the old campground on the west side. It's a 12, he snapped. 1, 50, 2, 12. The line went dead. Shelter caller, you're broken. Say again, the dispatcher said quickly. Sir, you still there? Nothing, just a sound like wind rushing over an open microphone fading. In my cab, my radio crackled. A separate channel. Turn around, Greg said. Go back to the gate. Do not acknowledge any more calls from that shelter. People are out there, I said. No, he said. They were out there. They're somewhere else now. Best thing you can do is not join them. That doesn't make any sense. Nothing about this makes sense, he shot back. Do you think I like hearing my own truck on cameras that don't exist? You want to argue or you want to see your wife again next week? He'd never mentioned my wife before. He must have read something in the HR file and was using it as leverage. And under any other circumstance, I'd have been pissed. Right then, I just felt cold. I drove to the gate, I locked it, I went home. I didn't sleep. If the story ended there with a weird phantom shelter and a dropped call, I probably could have filed it away as one of those things you tell as a campfire story. One time at the park, I heard a guy call in from a shelter that doesn't exist. But it didn't end there. The next morning, Ron was waiting for me by the time clock. He didn't say good morning, he just jerked his head toward his office. In mind, he shut the door, pulled the blinds, and sat down behind his desk with a heavy sigh. The hell were you doing on the radio last night? He asked without preamble. My job, I said, tired and on edge. There was someone... He held up a hand, cutting me off. I don't want to know what you think you heard, he said. I want to know, did you leave the paved road? No. I thought about the slope behind Shelter 11, the shape in the fog. I did not. His shoulders dropped a fraction. It was like watching a man's blood pressure fall in real time. Good, he said. Then you're going to forget you ever heard the word 12. Dispatch got a call, I said, from somebody out there. And that's a problem for dispatch, he said flatly. Not you, your job is concrete, trash. Keys, not metaphysics. He opened a drawer, took out a manila folder, and slid it toward me. On the tab, in neat black marker, was a single word. Incidents. Inside were photocopies of handwritten reports. Old ones, the paper had yellowed around the edges. The top one was dated August 1983. Family at S12 reported unknown male circling in county truck. It read in careful pen. No other staff in area. Units dispatched. No subjects located. Vehicle tracks end approximately 15 feet from shoreline. The next one was from 1985. Complaint from Shelter 12 regarding continuous vehicle harassment. Reporting party stated driver's face was wrong under headlights. Units arrived on scene, found shelter empty, fire still hot. No further. A third, Shelter 12 not on current maps. Caller insisted on number 12 multiple times. Became agitated. Response team located site after approximately 45 minutes of searching old roads. Arrived to find no party, table set, food uneaten. Vehicle keys left in center of table. No footprints leaving area. I flip it further back. 1979, 1981, 1990. Every few years, like clockwork, the same complaint, the same number, the same description. County truck, no identifying markings beyond the logo. Lights too bright, driver not speaking. Why are you showing me this? I asked. Because you've already heard enough that if I pretend it's nothing, you'll go looking on your own, Ron said. And that's how we lose people. He nodded at the folder, turned to the back. The last document was a memo on county letterhead. Dated 1987. Decommissioning of shelter, 12, Lakeview County Park. I skimmed it. Structural instability, flooding, risk of undercut erosion along the bank. Recommendation, immediate closure of adjacent access road. Removal of shelter structure to prevent further public use. The last line underlined. Note, despite removal of functional structure in August, multiple calls have continued to reference Shelter 12. Consider renumbering remaining shelters to decrease confusion. Beneath that, in ballpoint pen, a different hand had written, denied. Renumbering cost prohibitive. Public materials already printed. Ron let me sit with that for a minute. So it's gone, I said finally, voice sounding distant to my own ears. The real one. Real is doing a lot of work there, he said. There was a concrete slab and a metal roof and some posts. Those are gone. We took them out, but the other thing, the thing that calls itself 12? He shook his head. It was here before the concrete. It'll be here long after we're gone. Why not close the whole park, I asked. If it's that dangerous? Because it doesn't show up for everyone, he said. Most people come, they grill their hot dogs, they fish, they go home. Nobody ever sees a second shelter. As far as they're concerned, there are 11. We start telling the county commissioners that the lake is haunted, and they'll laugh us out of the room. They'll hire some consultant to say it's swamp gas, and then they'll cut our budget for wasting their time. You believe it, though. He met my eyes with a tired kind of certainty. I've heard my own voice on the radio telling a kid to come down to the water when I was in a different building, he said. I've watched cameras glitch and show me angles that don't exist. I've seen a shelter roof appear in the background of a lightning frame where there's nothing by daylight. Belief doesn't enter into it. It's just something I deal with so other people don't have to. I thought about the man on the radio the night before, the way his call had cut out mid-word. Do they ever come back? I asked. Ron was quiet for a long time. Not in a way you want to see, he said. He closed the folder, tapped it into alignment, and put it back in the drawer. Here's what you're going to do, he said. You're going to keep doing your job. You're going to tell people there are 11 shelters. You're going to clear the park at night and lock the gates and ignore any sign with the wrong number on it. If dispatch calls you about it, you kick it up to me or Greg. And if you ever find yourself looking at a shelter that isn't on your map, you turn around and you leave. And the people who are already there, I asked, hearing my own voice get tight. The Waltons, the guy who called in, people like that, what happens to them? He didn't answer. He didn't have to. I saw it in his face. For about 3 weeks after that, I did exactly what he told me. I cleared the park. I emptied trash cans. I avoided the slope behind Shelter 11 like it was a live minefield. Every time I drove that part of the loop, I kept my eyes firmly on the pavement. If the fog was thick, I went faster. There were no more calls to dispatch about Shelter 12, at least not while I was on duty. I started to let out the breath I'd been holding. Then one night in mid-October, Greg didn't show up for his shift. He was supposed to clock in at 10. At 10:15, the office called his cell. No answer. By 10:30, they'd called Ron. I was still out in the park, doing my last loop. Park 2, what's your 20? Ron's voice crackled over the radio. Just passing Shelter 4, I said. East side. I need you to swing by the maintenance yard, he said. Greg's not answering his phone. See if his car's there. Greg was a creature of habit. He drove the same silver Corolla he'd had since probably the Clinton administration. He parked it in the same spot by the side door every shift. It wasn't there. Nothing, I said. Lot's empty except for the plow truck and the gator. Copy, Ron said. There was a strain in his voice I didn't like. Finish your loop, lock the gate, come back to the office. We'll figure out coverage for the rest of the night. Copy, I said. I finished my loop. I locked the bathrooms. I closed the playground. By the time I got to the North Shore, the wind had picked up. Leaves skittered across the pavement like little animals. The air smelled like cold metal and decaying plants. I told myself I'd just drive by Shelter 11 like normal, that I wouldn't look down the slope. Then my radio hissed, "County Control to Park 2. The dispatcher's voice came. "We've got a late reservation check-in call from a 1 second, from a Walton party. They say they're at Shelter 12 and can't find the water spigot. Can you assist?" My blood ran cold. "Say again, Control," I said, trying to stall. "What party?" "Walton," she repeated. "W-A-L. Hang on, it's smudged. T-O-N. Scheduled for today, 5 p.m. to midnight. It's on the sheet here. Shelter 12. You close to him?" I thought of the whiteboard, the blue ink scribbled over S12, Walton, towards 2 p.m. MED. I thought of the trash I'd cleaned up behind 11, the denim jacket with no ID. I thought of Greg not answering his phone. "Control, this is Park 2, I said. We officially only have 11 shelters at Lakeview." "That's the line, yeah?" She sighed. "Yeah, I know what the map says," she replied. "But these folks have a printed receipt from the county office that says Shelter 12. You want me to tell them the county double booked and they have to go home?" My grip on the wheel tightened. "Can you patch them through?" I asked. A click, a ring, then, "Hello?" a woman's voice said. "Is this the park?" "This is Mark with the county," I said. "I'm on duty tonight. You said you're at Shelter 12? "That's what the sign says," she said, sounding tired and irritated. "We had a family thing supposed to start at 5, but my husband's brother had a car issue. Then my daughter got sick, so we're just now getting here. There's no water turned on. The bathroom door is locked, and I haven't seen a single employee all evening. We paid for electricity too, but we can't find any outlets. I'd like a partial refund at least." "Ma'am," I said, trying to keep my voice level, "can you describe how you got to your shelter? Which gate did you come through?" "The main one, I guess." She sounded exasperated. "Off Highway 6, there's the park sign. You turn in, go past some trees, a playground on your right. Then there was a fork. We took the left and followed the signs. There was one for 11, then one for 12. We turned into the lot there. Why? Is there another gate we were supposed to use?" "There is no left fork off the main road before 11. I knew that as well as I knew my driveway." "There's no one else out there?" I asked. "My husband and brother went to try and find someone," she said. "They took the cooler. Kids are in the van with me. The lights keep going off and on. I really don't like it out here." Her voice trembled on that last sentence. "Okay," I said, heart pounding. "Stay in your vehicle. Keep the doors locked. I'm coming up that way now. I'll flash my lights when I'm close. Don't get out unless you see my face." "Thank you," she breathed. "We're in a white minivan, license plate." The line warped suddenly, a high-pitched whine cutting through. For half a second, over the phone, I heard another sound behind her, a low, distant rumble, like a truck engine. "Ma'am?" I said quickly. "Hello? You're cutting out." "That funny?" she said suddenly, her tone changing. "The signal's usually better when you're not at the lake." I froze. "Excuse me?" I said. "I said the signal's usually better," she repeated. But her voice sounded flatter now, more generic. "We keep coming out here. Kids love it. Be nice if the staff weren't so rude." My scalp prickled. That last sentence. I'd heard it before. In the first Walton call. "We paid good money. Your guy has been driving in circles." "Ma'am," I said carefully, "what's your daughter's name? The one who was sick?" Silence. Then slow and deliberate. "We paid good money," she said. "Your guy has been driving in circles." The line went dead. "Control, did you hear that?" I asked. "Did you lose her too?" "Yeah," the dispatcher said, sounding rattled. "Dropped on my end at the same time. I'll try to call the number back." "Don't," I said too fast. "Don't call back. Just sit tight. I'm going to go." I trailed off, staring through the windshield. Ahead of me, the reflective sign for Shelter 11 flashed in my headlights. And beyond it, where there should have been only trees and the slope down to the lake, I saw another white rectangle, Shelter 12. The arrow pointed down a narrow road I'd never seen before, curling along the shoreline. The sign was clean, new, county font, county colors. It even had the little logo at the top. I didn't turn my head. I didn't let my eyes travel down that road. I just kept driving forward, past 11, as if the only road in the world was the one I already knew. Behind me in the rearview mirror, I could see a glow through the fog, like a cluster of sodium vapor lights over a ball field. I did not all back down. Park 2, respond, Ron's voice cracked through the static. Where are you? Just past 11, I said. I'm not going down there. Good, he said, a tremor of relief in his voice. You're not going to be able to help them if you do. All you'll do is give it another set of keys. This is insane, I said. There are people. Listen to me, he said. We have spent 40 years trying to force that spot into the same rules as everything else, and it does not care. We took the building. It kept the address. We took the address off the map. It put it back on their booking receipts. We locked the gates. It opened a different gate. You go down that road and you will not come back the same, if you come back at all. How are you okay with this? I demanded. With just letting it happen. I am not okay with it, he snapped, but I don't know how to fix it. The only thing I know how to do is keep my guys alive. So if you ever trusted me on anything, trust me on this. You keep driving. You clear the park. You go home. There was a long, taut silence. Finally, I said, copy. I kept driving. The glow in the mirror faded as fog swallowed it. The night closed in. 2 days later, Greg's car turned up. It was parked in a Walmart lot 20 miles away, neatly between the lines. Doors locked, no sign of a struggle. There were two odd things about it. One, his keys were still on the hook in the maintenance yard. And two, there was a county day use pass on the dashboard. Bright orange, dated for the night he disappeared. Issued to Walton. The county sheriff wrote it up as a voluntary disappearance. Guy probably got tired of your bullshit and split, one deputy told me with a shrug, sipping gas station coffee in our break room. Maybe he did, but sometimes when the fog is thick on the highway and the light hits the roadside reflectors just right, I think about the extra number on the whiteboard, about the slope behind 11, about the road I never turned down. And I wonder, why did it stop with Greg? Why not me? The season ended. The leaves dropped. We shut off the water to the campgrounds and padlocked the bathroom doors. I took a job with the city parks the next spring. Fewer lakes, more playgrounds. I told myself I was leaving for the pay bump, the better hours, the health insurance. That was partly true. It was also true that I never wanted to see that lake again. I thought I'd left it behind until last summer, when my wife and I took our kids to a park in a different county. Different lake, different brochure. We pulled into the day use area, found a spot under some oaks near a playground. The kids bolted for the swings. Check if any of the shelters are free, my wife called. I forgot the lawn chairs. I walked up to the nearest one, a nice stone structure with a fireplace at one end and a big shiny metal grill at the other. There was a sign above the reserved by box. Shelter is somewhere beyond it. I could see shelters 4 and 5. I kept walking, counting, beer cooler bumping against my knee. I turned a corner of the Lewis Road and saw another roofline in the distance, just visible between the trees. 9, and beyond it, barely visible through the afternoon haze and the heat shimmer off the pavement, a white metal plate nailed to a post. 2 digits. At that moment, one of my kids called my name. I blinked, looked away. When I looked back, the angle had shifted. The road, the trees, it all looked normal again. Shelter 10. Shelter 11. No extra. I never did find out if this park only had 11 for real, or if somewhere on some different version of its map, there's another number. That night, after everyone went to bed, I pulled out my phone and started searching old county records. Different counties, different lakes, different years. I shouldn't have, but I did. That's how I found your channel. That's why I'm writing this, because if I can't make it make sense, maybe at least I can tell people. If you're in a Midwestern park and your receipt says Shelter 12, if your GPS takes you down a road that isn't there in the morning, If you see two shelters where there should only be one, get back in your car, lock the doors, leave, let it keep recycling whoever it's already taken. Because the park is older than the county, older than the dam, maybe older than the town under the water. And whatever is sitting on that concrete that isn't there, with a number that doesn't add up, isn't interested in your safety deposit or your camping fee. It wants a full table. It wants another truck. It wants the sound of tires on gravel and a voice on the radio. It wants you to sit down. And I am begging you, don't. That was Mark's story. If you've ever wandered a county park at dusk and felt like something was just a little off, like the map didn't quite match the ground under your feet, you're not alone. Next time you're out on the lake and you see a shelter in the fog that doesn't quite line up with the brochure, or a sign with a number you don't remember from the drive-in, remember what you heard tonight. There are officially 11 shelters. Sometimes that's all you need to know. If you have your own park story, something strange you saw at a campground, a shelter that shouldn't have been there, a road that didn't exist in the morning, send it in. You can leave it in the comments or email it to the address in the description. My name is Daniel. This is Midwest Mysteries. Lock the gate behind you. Stick to the map. And if the park ever offers you a place to sit that isn't on the brochure, keep walking.